acting weird. Okay, we're going to talk about maybe some fears you have around CBD. We're going to compare what is on the market, and we're going to talk about how you can use this to support your body in all different ways, from joints to distress, to discomfort, to relaxation and sleep, etc. So I'm super excited about this. So first of all, is CBD marijuana? No. Hemp is actually a cousin to marijuana, but the hemp plant is cannabis is the scientific name, but marijuana and hemp are actually different plants, and they both contain cannabinol, which is known as CBD. Marijuana was actually hybridized to produce more than 40 times the THC, which makes you high. And they do it in a really weird way by getting rid of taking males and females and separating them out of the plants. So the female starts producing a ton of THC. So hemp is extremely low in THC to start with. And for CBD to be legal, at least in the United States, you have to have less than 0.3% of THC to even sell it legally in the US. Young Livings, however, has 0.00% THC. So that is great. And I'm going to get into more details about that. So why are people scared of CBD? Well, it's really the legal climate in the United States, starting from legal issues that started with marijuana. The Marijuana Act of 1937, which taxed cannabis, which had actually nothing to do with the dangers of cannabis. It had to do historically with competition, because hemp at the time was used for making paper and clothing. And it was a direct competition to the logging industry and the cotton industry. So they set out to make hemp illegal because it was very cost effective and a bad competitor to wood, which takes much longer to grow because hemp grows much faster than wood. So it was much cheaper to make clothing and paper out of hemp. So the history of CBD, or actually hemp, goes back 6,000 years to China and to Rome. Indians actually grew it in the US in the 1600s, and colonial farmers in the US would be fined by the British government if they did not grow hemp. They were legally forced to grow hemp because it was used for sailing, which is pretty interesting. The Declaration of Independence for the United States was written on hemp paper. How cool is that? Okay, so hemp is not a drug. Hemp is actually a plant that produces phytocannabinoids. They enhance the body's endocannabinoid system, much like how essential oils aid our body. So the science on endocannabinoids and on the endocannabinoid system is just emerging. In fact, the endocannabinoid system was not discovered until the 1990s, 30 years after hemp was banned. And the reason why is because hemp could not even be studied in universities because it was grouped as a Schedule I drug in the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. To give you an idea what that is, the Controlled Substance Act includes things like cocaine, okay? It was grouped with cocaine, even though it had none of the same kinds of properties as cocaine. In 2014, the US government passed a pilot program which allowed hemp to be grown and studied. And the Hemp Farming Act of 2018 in the US changed the status of hemp from being a Controlled I substance to a commodity like corn or soybeans, which it is much more like that. So authorities predict the hemp industry will grow by 700% in the short term. And most Americans within the next 5 years will have at least tried CBD, and many of them will use it daily. The body is ready for CBD. What does this mean? So we have receptors in our endocannabinoid system to accept CBD. And these receptors circulate through our body, and they're even found in our white blood cells. So you can think of the ECS, known as the endocannabinoid system, like your hormonal system. So the ECS affects the entire body, and it's a major contributor to overall balance, which is why you can use CBD for one thing and find it's fixing something else in your body, like our essential oils do too. So we're familiar with this if you've been using oils. So why use CBD over any other product or any other remedy? Well, it's a plant. It's non-surgical, it's drug-free, It's a natural remedy. So in the perfect world, you would try your natural remedies first, and then you can move on from there if your natural remedy is not working for you. So CBD can be really life-changing for many people, and I know that several on the call are going to tell their stories today. But most people, just so you know, experience the maximum benefit of CBD after taking it for 2 to 3 months. So that's important to know. So you may not see this super quick result like you do sometimes with essential oils. It does have to build in your system. So how safe is CBD? In June 2017, there was a literature review looked at, I think that was actually by the WHO, that looked at 74 studies on the safety of CBD. And the biggest side effects, and this is not Young Living's, this is overall CBD on the market, was drowsiness and a slight loss in appetite and weight. So those were the most common only symptoms that they ever saw. So will you get high or become stoner? That's what they call in the US, someone who does marijuana, if you take CBD? And the answer is no. CBD is not marijuana. There's no THC in Young Living CBD, so you cannot get high from it. Sorry if that's what you were looking for. But the WHO did this major study. Actually, it's a separate study in the WHO has actually, the World Health Organization has over 3 billion people that it has in its populace to survey. And there was not one single case globally of a physical dependence or a withdrawal symptom from CBD, which is great. There were no reported cases of abuse of public health problems. And earliest written evidence of medicinal use comes from China, and that there was written that the Emperor of China used CBD in the year 2737 BC. Many years ago. And in 77 AD, there's records of Romans using it as medicine. And it's been popular in the Middle East and in India, and it's considered sacred and been used there for centuries. Can you get addicted or overdose? So I kind of addressed this already, but let's talk about dosages. So even doses as high as 1,500 milligrams per day, which is 90 times what a doctor would recommend, have never had a side effect, well tolerated. That's like drinking, oh, I don't have a CBD bottle with me here. I should have put that in here. That's like drinking like 3 bottles of CBD in a day or at one time. So even that has had no symptoms, negative symptoms. And it's sensible to say that the body will take what it needs and get rid of the rest, just like it does with our essential oils. So so you're not going to get high, like I mentioned, because the THC is what gets you high. And the reason why is because it attached to what's called the CB1 and the CB2 receptors. If there's no THC, there's nothing to attach to those receptors. And THC, you would experience physical changes like coordination issues, maybe some changes in your mood, and that is what the THC part does. So we don't have those kinds of reactions with a non-THC CBD. How much do I take and when? So let's talk about dosage. Everyone is different, just like essential oils, everybody is different. But factors like your weight, your height, your diet, your metabolism, your genetics, your environment, your lifestyle, and all can affect how much you need from a CBD perspective. So Young Living's CBD also known as Nature's Ultra, because Nature's Ultra existed, and then Young Living actually bought that company and then infused it with essential oils, which I'll talk about in a minute, comes with a dropper. And most experts say you should start with a regular dosage and take a half a dropper 2 times a day when you get started, about 12 hours apart if you want to be scientific about it. That's to achieve the best saturation in your body. So CBD does need to build over time, so it may take several weeks before you see a big change. And then the muscle rub, so there's the oil dropper, and then there's the muscle rub, which I do have sitting on my desk because honestly, I just ordered it. It was sitting on my desk with my ER order. I haven't even taken the lid off of it yet, but this can be applied directly, topically, wherever you're feeling discomfort. And then there's the Calm roller, which you can apply to your chest, the back of your neck, or your feet are some of the best places to roll the Calm roller. So what makes Young Living different when it comes to CBD? So we have what's called Smart Spectrum CBD, which has never been done before in the industry. And what this means in the world, when we talk about CBD, there's two terms that the world uses for CBD. There's broad spectrum, which means the whole plant. You're using the whole plant when you distill, which is considered better. And then there's isolates, which are using part of the plant. And Young Living decided to look at this differently, because the beauty of the broad spectrum is that you get all of those receptors or that help drive the cannabinoid, the CBD into the cannabinoid system. The problem is that when you distill the whole plant, that means you will have THC. And we have a lot of people with Young Living who work in, the military, maybe on the police force, things like that, where they cannot have THC. So we needed to be really smart about how we deliver this for the best, most optimal product. So what Young Living did was they infused the isolate, the part of the plant that does not have THC, with the terpenes from essential oils that help deliver it to the cells better. The other thing that's really important to know about what differentiates Young Living CBD is that hemp is really an amazing plant for detoxifying our soil. It's called a phytoremediator, which means that it takes all those chemicals that are bad in the soil and the heavy metals, and it pulls them out of the soil as it grows, which is great, right, for our soil, which is not great if you're using that plant for medicinal uses. So just like everything else with Young Living, we want to make sure that the soil is completely pure and clean where we grow that hemp. And our hemp is actually grown in Colorado, which was the first state in the US to actually allow hemp growing again, hemp farming, I should say. And it is actually on a mountain, so we don't get runoff from other farms. So it's really, you have to know like where you're getting water runoff in your farm, because that can affect your soil, right? So let's talk about the 3 reasons that make Young Living CBD amazing. One is that we have this broad spectrum versus isolate. When we do neither, we do the smart spectrum. So we talked about that already. The second is the seed to seal premium standard. So how we source our plants, they're grown with no fertilizers, no pesticides, sulfur, irradiation, dyes, heavy metals, lead, arsen, mercury, cadmium in the soil. None of that you will ever find. We have terpenes in our oil, and these terpenes carry the CBD constituents to our cells, just like Ningxia Red. When we add the essential oils to our wolfberry, it makes it more deliverable to our cells. So the terpenes are what makes our CBD better instead of using the whole entire plant, hemp plant. Makes it extremely bioavailable. And then 7 reasons why Young Living is better than organic standard. So a lot of companies out there talk about, well, we're organic, but let's talk about what does organic standard mean? So USDA organic is what's used in the US. And that is supposed to be the highest classification for organic standards, the best you can get in the US. So what does this mean? And that means you can have up to 5% non-organic material allowed. It means you just need 3 years of growing organic before the standard is met. And then 5 to 7 years after there's no more spraying, you can call that field organic. You can use approved synthetic pesticides still with USDA organic. You only the soil testing is required, so they don't test the plant afterwards to make sure that there's anything synthetic on it. You can use conventional seeds. They don't have to be organic seeds as long as they're non-GMO. The approval board for USDA can be staffed by volunteers. They don't even have to be employees. And there's no third-party testing required to make sure that it actually is organic. No checks and balances. So what's the difference between USDA organic and Young Living's seed to seal standard? Young Living is no pesticides or chemicals are allowed at all. The soil must be chemical free for 50 years. That's huge, 50 years. All pest control is done with essential oils. Young Living only uses heirloom seeds, no conventionally grown seeds. And we have more than 50 scientists on staff testing, many who were hand trained by our founder, who was such a purist. Gary Young wanted it as pure as possible. And we also have third-party testing done on every batch. As far as CBD is concerned, you can get on the Nature's Ultra website and you can see the test results for any batch of CBD. So that's really cool that you can go look at that testing result. So this seed to seal standard is not just for CBD or oils, which we do this for both CBD and oils, but it's everything that Young Living has is held to the same seed to seal premium standard. So our skincare, our supplements, our babies and kids products, our cleaning supplies, et cetera. There's no greenwashing, meaning that we say that it's clean and it's not. It is clean when you get it. When we say clean and safe, you can take it to the bank. And purity is what Young Living does. So let's talk about CBD science. Excuse me. We have the best labs in the world with equipment that no other company has. We have the largest library of essential oils in the world because we have documented the chemical constituents in these oils for the last 30 years. And we've gathered this library of oils by doing research on oils from 6 different continents. Unmatched testing globally by any other company. So that is the end of all the details on our CBD. And I was going to hand it over to you guys for some testimonies, but I'm going to give you a couple of action steps. I'm going to challenge you guys to try our CBD for 2 months, and I want you to get creative with how you use it. So I'm going to let those creative juices flow while you listen to the testimonies from today. So with that, I am handing it over to, sorry, my screen just switched. And whoever is up first, I think it was Artie is up first. So I'm gonna hand it to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to share my testimony about CBD tonight. I have so many stories to share, so I'm not really sure which is the best, but I think I'm gonna very quickly think on my toes and switch the story to give you a scenario where I use the CBD very innovatively as of recent. But before I jump onto that story, I want to say that I have tried other CBD products before I actually joined or was, a member of Young Living. And this was shortly after I had my son. During my pregnancy, I suffered from SPD, which is a symphysis pubis dysfunction, which is also known as a pubic girdle pain. And that's really it's extreme pain that's caused to the lower back and pubic area and inner thighs as a result of too much relaxin being released. And relaxin is a hormone that's produced to open up the joint in front of the pubis in preparation for birth. And sometimes this hormone can go a little bit too far than necessary, and that causes this extreme pain. During my pregnancy, I managed this pain with many chiropractic and yoga exercises, but I was in excruciating pain throughout my pregnancy. I literally, I was pregnant at the age of 40, and I felt like an old person. I felt like I was 80 at the time. I couldn't walk and I really struggled. So I was told that this pain would disappear long after pregnancy and long after giving birth. And unfortunately, I was an anomaly in the doctor's practice, because I still continued to experience, and sometimes to date, I still continue to experience that pain in my lower back and my inner thigh from time to time. And then it was at this time that I was actually at a local farmer's market, and I saw some CBD products on the shelf, and I decided to become brave and try the product. So I bought the rub. I was still breastfeeding at the time, but I was assured that it was a safe product and that it's being used externally, and that I could use it. And to my utter horror, I actually felt really woozy. In fact, I believe I felt high. I know what it feels like to feel high, and I actually felt high, and I was breastfeeding, and I spent quite a bit, a little fortune on this little tub of CBD rub, which found its way into the bin. And then I subsequently joined the Young Living community, and shortly thereafter, the Nature's Ultra CBD kit launched. I was extremely excited and grabbed the kit immediately the day that it launched, because I trust in the Seed to Seal standards which Young Living promises. And, I was not the Young Living products never cease to surprise me. So I would like to say that I should not have been surprised, but I was incredibly surprised at the level of comfort that I felt after using the rub for my lower back and my inner thigh. I also used a 0.25 ml of the CBD drops under my tongue at night. And I promise you, being a new mom, I actually experienced the most amazing depth of rest and sleep, where I could wake up feeling fresh and amazing in the morning. And of course, the bonus was not having the lower back pain. So it has been an incredible experience for me in respect of my progress in starting off with the CBD rub. Now, I want to share very quickly a recent story where my husband and I became quite ill from a cold or a flu, and I made up in the veggie caps a concoction with oregano, thieves, lemon, and basil, and all of the good stuff to build my immune system. But instead of using the fractionated coconut oil or olive oil, I actually used the CBD drop. And I can, we slept as if we took an over-the-counter drug, with the amazing depth of sleep. And by the next morning, we were up and about and fresh and feeling amazing and like brand new again. So that was my innovative way in using the CBD drops as of recently. And the last story is that I have so much trust and faith in the Young Living and Nature's Ultra products that my son is currently experiencing terrible chews. And the more you try, he fights his daytime nap, and the more he fights his daytime nap, the more difficult he becomes. And the one day it was unbearable. And all I did was take the CBD roller and apply a little bit to his wrist and to his chest, and it was instantaneous. He was a different child. Shortly thereafter, he calmed down. He said to me, sleep. He put his head onto my shoulder, and he had the best nap for an hour and a half, and he woke up like a brand new child. And with that, I want to stop sharing my stories. I want to hand over to Cynthia, because I'd love to hear Cynthia's stories and her experience with the CBD and Nature Ultra products.
Cynthia, would you mind unmuting yourself?
Unmute. You know me, at my age, I'm a bit computer illiterate in that. But Good evening, everybody, and that's very nice. And thank you for asking me to join your group. As you can see, I'm not that young anymore. I'm turning 70 this year, but I have to tell you my age and I have to give you some of my history for you to actually understand why I'm able to sit here with a smile on my face and still work. And when I was 55, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor in my pituitary gland. And my pituitary gland was almost the size of a tennis ball. And it was resting against my optic nerve and my brainstem and what have you. I had to have it operated on, and they went through my nose. But unfortunately, they couldn't remove all of it, and 5% remained, which subsequently grew again and around my carotid artery, resting against my brainstem. So as a result of all of this, I had a headache 24 hours of the day, and excruciating headaches. I couldn't sleep at night, and my pituitary gland was not producing what it should have been producing. As a result, I'm on large amounts of drugs in the beginning. Cortisone I have to have. It keeps me going. It's cortisol to your body that your pituitary gland produces. I'm on that for life, unfortunately. Altoxin for my thyroid, because that doesn't work. The pituitary gland doesn't produce that either. And it also doesn't produce quite a few other hormones, which I can do without anyway. But I lived with headaches. I was Schedule 5s. I was taking, let me see, 12 Schedule 5 capsules for pain a day. Yeah, I know it sounds, when you think about it, my gosh. I was taking Tremacet and Sanu-Leave, 2 of each 3 times a day. Basically, every 3 hours, I was taking a Schedule 5 painkiller to try and get rid of the headache, and as well taking sleeping tablets at night time to try and get some sleep so that my body could rest. And Louise said to me one day, Mom, and a side effect of the operation was I lost my sense of smell and taste. So I can't smell, can't taste. I could eat sawdust, it wouldn't make any difference. Louise said to me one day, Mom, try CBD oil. I said, yeah, I've tried the CBD oil in the shops and it does not work. She said, Mom, I'm a stubborn old girl. She said, try it. I said, oh, all right, get it for me. And I did. And I used it for a couple of months, as well as, I think it's called the progressive rub on my arms as well. Well, let me tell you now, I'm feeling $1 million. My painkillers have reduced from 360 a month to 80. I only take 1, maybe 2 a day now. My headaches have reduced dramatically. And from the progressive, my sense of smell has started slowly but surely coming back. It has to be a sharp smell, granted, but I get a smell now and again, and I think, well, I haven't smelled that for 15 years. and and I sleep like a baby. Unfortunately, I'm still taking, because of the cortisone, makes your body wake up, basically. So it has to shut me down. And I'm taking the sleeping tablets, but that's my next thing I want to do, is cut the sleeping tablets out. And I thought, well, if I can do that as well, on top of everything else, hey, I'm good to go for another 30 years. Basically, that's my story. And good luck to everybody who uses it, because I guarantee you it does work. You can see me sitting here with a smile on my face. By the way, I have my own company and I still work.
Fantastic. That is.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Cynthia. There was a question for you about how much you use, was the question.
Okay, 2.5 milligrams dropper to start off in the morning and at night time. And then I went up to 3, and then I just kept it at 3 milliliters, and it was fine, and it did the trick. It was a long process, but it worked. It worked for me. I think maybe it was also a mindset. I was determined that it was going to work.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Paula,
It's a pleasure.
you're
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming and sharing that amazing story.
Yes, Cynthia, that was absolutely amazing. I've got goosebumps listening to you because I had a friend in a similar situation and I wish I'd had this product available for her. Hi, ladies. So out of all the CBD products that I use the most, it is the CBD balm. I've bought 3 CBD kits because it's just so much more bang for your buck, and now I just buy all the loose as and when I need it. The CBD balm comes in a 300 gram and a 600 milligram extract, which is just basically the potency of the balm that you use. I use it really, it's become much of my health routine for exercise because I suffer with muscle problems, with inflammation and sore bones from running. I have a shower and I use it afterwards, and it really, really is a great post-workout product. 2 weeks ago, I had a bad fall and I hurt my hip so bad that I actually couldn't walk. And using copaiba as an inflammation oil and Panaway and the 600 milligram muscle balm, I was walking within the day. I just applied it 3 times a day after a shower because I found for me after a shower when my pores are open, it's like a hot compress. I definitely feel a lot more relief from it. We use it a bit working all day, our necks are sore, our muscles are sore, back sore. It's really an amazing product. So basically I just use it every day when I'm exercising as a post-workout rub. And that's it for me on the product. Thank you. And I don't know who's going next.
Louise is up, right?
Yeah, I'm next. Hi, everyone. So I started using CBD oil for migraines. I think I started about 6 months ago. I've always sort of suffered on and off with migraines. And then just before I started, I was getting them chronically, probably about 1 a week. It got quite serious. And if you've had a migraine, you know they kind of last for a good couple of days. So they're not fun. So because my mom had such success with her CBD oil, I decided to start taking them. And I think in the last 6 months, I've probably had 1 migraine. And that was because I'd run out of my bottle and my next bottle was on the way. So it's taught me to always overlap them. And it's just been fantastic. I mean, to live with having so many migraines is just crazy. I was even contemplating getting the piercings to try and help them, but now I have the CBD oil. I also have the calming roller, which I use now and again on my children, because I have a daughter who's inherited my insomnia problems. And she, you know, if she says to me or wakes me up during the night, "Mommy, I can't sleep," I just roll it on her wrist and she's lights out. So it's been fantastic. So I recommend all the products. They're all fantastic. Over to you, Ellie.
So I actually, let me see, I have there we go. Sorry, I was pinning your video because to make it stay. I want to share, I have a story for you. Of course, I have lots of stories. I have many stories. My husband is actually obsessed with this CBD muscle balm. He swears by it and he has gotten all of his golf buddies addicted to it, but that's not my best story. My best story is, let me see if I can get the camera over here. Do you see this old lady here? You can't really see her face here. Sorry, can't get my camera, but she is one of my 4-legged children, and she is my baby. And she has had a rough life. First of all, she is a rescue and she went through a lot in her life. And so my goal is to give her the best possible life that she can have for the rest of her life. And we've had her for a little more than 10 years now. I don't exactly know how old she is. We're guessing around 14 years old now, and she's a big girl. So she's probably at least 4 years past her life expectancy. She's half Great Dane, half Doberman. And she's really her back hips, as most of these old dogs get, these big dogs, they struggle with arthritis and things. And so she, I was kind of intermittent in giving her the CBD. I wasn't super consistent. And one day she just would not get up. And this is a dog who literally will harass me for food in the morning until I feed her. She loves to go for walks and she would not get up. I was like, time for breakfast. Let's go for a walk. And she would not get up. And so I brought the CBD to her and I use the dropper. I actually use the maximum strength now, so I can just give her a quarter of a dropper full and I stick it directly under her tongue. So I think that day I gave her a half a dropper of that. And then she got up and she went and had her breakfast, but she was still kind of slow, just wasn't her normal self. So I gave her another half a dropper full. And then she was waiting by the front door to go for a walk. And I put a leash on her and she literally dragged me down the street, which is her normal thing to try to do, is to drag me down the street. So I give it to her religiously now every single morning. And I give it to her sublingually like you would a human being. I just stick the dropper right under her tongue. And I personally use the peppermint for her just because it's good for digestion as well. So I figure why not pick the oil that has some other, benefits for her. So that's been amazing for our girl. Honestly, you would not know how old she is. She prances around the street and shows off her spryness to everyone. So that's my personal story. Does anyone else have something that they would like to share? Any other stories that anyone would like to share? Okay, well, with that,